Donald Trump the infamous Doe number 174? Is Donald Trump Doe 174? A great investigative piece by Business Insider believes he is. And as you know, here on the MeidasTouch network, in addition to all of the other content we've been doing here, we have been doing a deep dive, a thorough investigation into Donald Trump's background, into Donald Trump's history, into Donald Trump's depraved secrets that legacy media has not fully covered or made the connections. So let's make more of these connections right now. But I want to start with this great piece by Business Insider. This just broke, this news. It sure looks like Donald Trump was disguised as Doe 174 in the newly unsealed Jeffrey Epstein documents, it says. A federal judge unsealed the names of nearly 200 Does, and it appears that Donald Trump may be Doe 174. And it may also be the case that Donald Trump's lawyers were trying to secretly fight behind the scenes from having his name released, according to this investigative report right here. It talks about how the Virginia Giuffre civil lawsuit, one of the victims, there were lots of documents produced in that matter, and now the judge is unsealing those documents and records and releasing them to the public. And while Donald Trump's adult kids, like Don Jr., are trying to point the fingers at others who are actually mentioned, he's not mentioning the fact that Donald Trump's name appears 7 times at least on the flight logs. And here's the thing about Donald Trump being on that disgusting jet with Epstein. Donald Trump has his own jet as well, unlike other people who would be arguably saying that they needed to use it. So why would Donald Trump be on the jet? So Donald Trump's names appear 7 times on the logs. We also talked about how Donald Trump's name appeared in a deposition that was released. One of the victims in the deposition talked about how they were flying into town, into New York, New Jersey area. Then they were heading to Atlantic City. We were flying, and Jeffrey said, "Why don't you go sit in the cockpit to check out the landing?" So we were sitting there, and the pilots told me to go back and tell him that we can't land in New York and that we were going to have to land in Atlantic City. Jeffrey said, "Great, we'll call up Trump and we'll go to," I don't recall the name of the casino, but we'll go to the casino. So bringing his victims to a Trump property and then calling up Donald Trump. But let's just go back into this Business Insider article. It talks about how the documents identified about 170 people whose names have come up in the legal battle with Virginia Giuffre. And it talks about how they're identified as John Doe. And when Business Insider ran an analysis, Doe 174 as a person whose, quote, association with Epstein and Maxwell has been widely reported in the media already, and his or her name came up during Maxwell's public criminal trial. Ghislaine Maxwell, who was the individual who fed the girls to Epstein. Horrific. Donald Trump's name came up in the trial, so there were connections. That is Doe 174, Donald Trump. And just as a reminder during Ghislaine Maxwell's trial, a witness testified that Jeffrey Epstein drove her to Mar-a-Lago to meet Donald Trump when she was just 14 years old. And by the way, Virginia Giuffre, whose name is, who's filed the civil lawsuit, she worked at Mar-a-Lago. That's how she met Epstein, by working at Mar-a-Lago. And then she started, then she was brought into the despicable and vile world of Epstein. But she started at Mar-a-Lago. It goes on to talk about how Trump fits the bill of someone who had a long history with Epstein. "I wish her well," is what Donald Trump said about Ghislaine Maxwell. His name is coming up a lot in public around her trial, and then it came up in the flight logs as well. And just a reminder, let me just play for you this portion right here of the press conference Donald Trump gave, where he was asked a question about Ghislaine Maxwell, and he said he wished her well. But when I show it to you, then I'm going to show you some other connections that we've been able to make, and now knowing that Trump could be Doe 174, tying all of these things together. But here, play this now infamous clip of Donald Trump's response. Play this.
Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison, and a lot of people want to know if she's going to turn in powerful people. And I know you've talked in the past about Prince Andrew, and you've criticized Bill Clinton's behavior. I'm wondering, do you feel that she's going to turn in powerful men? How do you see that working out?
I don't know. I haven't really been following it too much. I just wish her well, frankly. I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, and I guess they lived in Palm Beach. But I wish her well, whatever it is. I don't know the situation with Prince Andrew. Just don't know. Not aware of it.
So then, as we at MeidasTouch did our digging here, you go back and you try to determine the relationship that exists between Trump and Ghislaine and Epstein. And you go back and it's like a lot. I mean, this was an article that was written in one of the British papers at the time, Trump's Brit of All Right. Just weeks after ditching his second wife, America's Best, this is from 1997, this article that we found. Just weeks after ditching his second wife, America's best-known billionaire, Donald Trump, has fallen under the spell of a 20-year-old English girl, Trump 50, who has failed in his bid to secure the services of Princess Diana's butler. Paul Burrell was in search of another British trophy when he met London model Anushka De Giorgio at a party in Manhattan. Several American millionaires already had their eyes on Anushka, but she was there with Robert Maxwell's daughter, Ghislaine, who has introduced several of her attractive friends to the property developer. And none of his would-be rivals owned a vast mansion in Florida like Donald Trump does. Mar-a-Lago, where I have dined with him and his outgoing wife, Marla, is enough to make any young girl go weak at the knees. After their meeting, Trump flew Madame Maxwell, they're calling her a madam in this article, flew Madame Maxwell and the model south to the Sunshine State, where all three enjoyed a happy weekend together. When they returned to New York, Anushka was installed in one of Donald's many apartments there. Miss DeGeorgia likes older men. She went out once or twice with Joanna Lumley's ex-husband, Jeremy Lloyd, who was 45 years her senior. And then it says that doubtless it is the start of a long, by Trump standards, friendship between the two. So we have a deposition transcript of Epstein bringing a victim to one of the Trump casinos. You have an article written in 1997, a contemporaneous article about Ghislaine introducing women to Donald Trump. Then you have Donald Trump's statement from 2002. This is in his own words, this is what Donald Trump said. Trump told New York Magazine that he thought Epstein was a terrific guy and noted his penchant for pursuing women on the younger side. I've known Jeff for 15 years, terrific guy, Mr. Trump told the magazine. He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. It is a direct quote from Donald Trump, and a lot of people who have been watching my investigative pieces here have said, you still need to mention, Ben, the fact that Donald Trump boasted about intentionally walking into the room with as the teenage girls were changing in the Miss Teen USA competition. And I want to include that as we tie all of this together as well. Trump said on the Howard Stern radio show in 2005 that he could get away with walking into the dressing room to inspect beautiful women. Donald Trump boasted about meeting semi-naked teenagers in beauty pageants. Donald Trump used to, quote, stroll right into the dressing room of beauty pageants while the contestants, some of whom were teenagers, were naked or half-dressed, a former model has claimed. Tasha Dixon was 18 when she competed in the Miss USA pageant, winning the state crown. Our first introduction to him was when we were at the dress rehearsal and half-naked changing into our bikinis, Miss Dixon told CBS. Quote, he just came strolling right in. There was no second to put a robe on or any sort of clothing or anything. Some girls were topless, other girls were naked. She added that people who worked for Mr. Trump pressured the women, girls, to fawn over him, go walk up to him, talk to him, get his attention while still not fully dressed. Miss Dixon added the situation made them feel awkward and physically vulnerable. 4 women who competed in the 1997 Miss Teen USA beauty pageant also said the Republican used to walk in. Some of the girls were as young as 15. 1997. Remember that. When was that article that I told you from the British tabloids? When was that written? It was written in 1997 as well, which documented that, that situation that was going on in Donald Trump's relationship with Ghislaine as well. Remember that date, 1997, 1998, for another reasons as well. And that is because, right around these mid 90s, I saw this photo recently of this this is a weird photo, I thought, from Donald Trump's New Year's party. And just the guy looks like a bad guy from the villain in some a Marvel movie, basically. And he was hanging out with Trump throughout the night at Trump's New Year's party, and Melania was nowhere to be found. So I'm like, who in the world is this person? And so I just started doing some digging, and it's someone named Paolo Zampoli, who ran a modeling agency in the mid 1990s, and as part of this modeling agency would bring Eastern European women over into the United States, and then they would hold these parties at Manhattan clubs like the Kit Kat Club, where the wealthy men would meet the models who worked for Paolo Zampoli. And one of those models who was brought here by Zampoli was Melania. And in 1997, that's how Donald Trump ended up meeting Melania at one of these parties, or 1998, 1 year later, at the Kit Kat Club. And this is a New York Times article. When Donald met Melania, Paolo was there, and he secured Melania's visa to the United States. She ended up getting the Genius visa, and Zampoli introduced them at the Kit Kat Club together, where they were throwing a party. So that was in 1998 right here. And here's a piece from The Guardian. Teen models, powerful men, private dinners when Trump hosted. This is what it looked like. In the early 1990s, Trump judged the world's biggest modeling competition, since hit by allegations of abuse. This is how people who were there remember it. It says on September 1st, 1991, a large private yacht cruised towards the Statue of Liberty. It was clear, breezy evening, and from the upper deck of the Spirit of New York, a golden sunset could be seen glinting off the Manhattan skyline. Downstairs, a party was in flow. Scores of teenage girls in evening dresses and miniskirts, some as young as 14, danced under disco lights. It could have been a high school prom, were it not for the crowd of older men surrounding them. Even as the evening wore on, some of the men, many as old enough to be the girls' fathers or even grandfathers, joined them on the dance floor, pressing themselves against the girls. One balding man in a suit wrapped his arms around 2 young models, leering into a film camera that was documenting the evening. "Can you please get some beautiful women around me, please?" The party aboard is what the man said about the young girls on this boat. The party aboard the Spirit of New York was one of several events that Donald Trump, then 45, attended with a group of 58 aspiring young models. They call them that September. And there was another person who ran a modeling agency by the name of John Casablancas, who Donald Trump was friends with, and that was part of this yacht party as well. I just want to show you in Donald Trump's own words now. So you could say, okay, Ben, well, those are articles. Those are articles. Yeah, sure, you showed me the Ghislaine clip, but, that's Donald Trump saying things. Show me more about what Donald Trump was saying about this period of time. You just showed me all of this damaging evidence. Could Donald Trump be the infamous Doe 174? We see his name on the flight logs. We see his name appear in the deposition. We know his name came up as well from another in a latest round of a document dump. There was some real shocking and heinous accusations made against Donald Trump by a victim who then retracted, and when this victim retracted, said it would end up that it would hurt their family. And so that's one of the reasons they were retracting, but they retracted the accusation. But that came in as part of some of the new documents that were released. But like, show me Ben in his words, because, you say MeidasTouch is data driven, and you're reading, you're making a lot of connections with a lot of stories that have been out there, but let me hear what he has to say. Well, so let's do that. Okay, so I'm going to show you 3 clips right now, back to back to back. Okay, first clip I'm going to show you is Donald Trump on Howard Stern talking about walking in on teenage girls who were not dressed. Play this clip.
Well, you could also say, as the owner of the pageant, it's your obligation to do that.
So you have done that. Now,
I'll tell you the funniest is that I'll go backstage before a show.
Yes.
And everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else. And, no men are anywhere. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it. I'm inspecting. I want to make sure that
you're like
everything
a
is
doctor.
good.
You're there.
Yeah, the dress. Is everyone okay? They're standing there with no clothes. Is everybody okay? And you see these incredible looking women. And so I sort of get away with things.
Okay, the next clip I'm going to play for you is Donald Trump talking about Lindsay Lohan when she's 18 years old. Play the clip.
What do you think of Lindsay Lohan, Howard?
I think she's hot.
There's something there, right?
Yes.
But you have to like freckles. I've seen a close-up of her chest.
Yes.
And a lot of freckles. Are you into freckles?
If the father's a wreck like the way he is,
Right.
you imagine the sex with this troubled...
Yeah, you're probably right. She's probably deeply troubled and therefore great in bed.
Back in the day...
How come the deeply troubled women,
Yes.
deeply troubled,
Right.
they're always the best in bed? If for some reason what I said is true, I mean, they're just unbelievable.
I could tell from the...
You don't want to be with them for the long term, but for the short term, there's nothing.
And the final clip I'm going to play, it was Donald Trump talking about Paris Hilton when she was 12 years old. Play the clip.
really beautiful is Paris Hilton. Paris Hilton. And I've known Paris Hilton from the time she's 12.
She's hot.
Her parents are friends of mine, and, the first time I saw her, she walked into the room and said, who the hell is that?
Did you want to bang her?
She is at 12 I wasn't interested. I've never been into that.
Right.
They've sort of always stuck around that 25 category.
But even at 12, you were kind of
No,
like,
but
wow,
I
she's hot.
saw at 12 she was beautiful. But honestly, Paris gets knocked and this and that, but she's very beautiful. Her
Is she
skin
dumb?
is flawless. She's dumb like a fox.
Have you seen the video, the sex video?
I have seen it.
You did. What'd you do? You went on the internet?
it was just
How did you see that? What did you do?
Melania showed it to me.
She did?
She showed it to me.
What did you think of that?
I think it's probably unfortunate, and perhaps it made... What is that noise?
That's the tape.
So you think about what Donald Trump's character is like. And as I've said before, and I talk about this on the videos that I do, and I've always asked you, should I keep doing videos like this? Should I stop doing videos like this? It's only a very small fraction of the videos that I do here at the MeidasTouch Network are on topics, focusing on this aspect. But I just, for me, no one ever made these connections for me. You may have seen all of these things, but I have not seen any video before MeidasTouch that draws the links between all of this, puts it in one video in a way that's kind of easy to understand. Heck, when I made these links myself, I was like, what? I'm like, how come this has never been reported like this before? And for me, moral character is just important. Like, moral character is one of the most critical things for anybody in any position at all, for anything. If someone behaved this way in the fantasy football team, fantasy football league that I'm a part of, I would ban them. They'd be repulsed, probably get a restraining order against them. And this is who's the leader of the Republican Party. And I just think it's important that we share this video. We just let people know, here's what's up. Here's what's going on. Here are the facts. Here's the data. Business Insider says Trump's Doe 174. Seems that Donald Trump, we know his name's been released in all of these other documents. We could hear what he's having to, even if he's not Doe 174, which I think he is, you still see all this other content. But anyway, It makes me really sad. It makes me both very sad and angry when I do these videos like this, just to see how despicable this man is. It's really sad. Anyway, I'm Ben Meiselas. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 2 million subs.
Thanks so much for watching. We're only a few subscribers short of 2 million subs. Please subscribe right now to the MeidasTouch YouTube channel for free and help us grow this unapologetically pro-democracy network.